Okay. Okay, members, if you now would turn, please, to file item 6, Delta Plan, Delta EIR, Programmatic EIR regulations, and so on, which we had skipped over the last time. Ms. Messer.
Yes.
Now, Vice Regent of Planning? Is that what the new title is?
Wow, keeps changing. It's getting longer. Well, good morning. Let me move this a little bit closer here. I think that what I will do is build on the nice introduction and overview that Mr. Knott provided in his report this morning and provide just a little bit more detail about where we are going and the schedule and some milestones that we need to get to in the next few months. The purpose of today's report was really informational. It was to give the council an update on where we're at in the process of finalizing the EIR, the Delta Plan, and the regulations based on the Delta Plan policies, and then to provide a bit of a roadmap in terms of next steps and schedule and what to expect in the next few months. So just in terms of where we're at right now, should I? Oh, keep going. Okay.
We're getting a request from people in the audience to comment on briefing items to the council. We're going to reserve those comments until the end. If we start having an exchange, all of you will come up and talk, and we'll never get the council an opportunity to hear it. So we're going to put most of these, particularly on actions that are not slated for action items, that are information to the council. We're going to ask you to reserve your comments to the end of the meeting. Mr. Wilson, I have your note, but we're going to, no, not now. We're going to put all those to the end of the council. When we're taking an action item, we take testimony from the public before we act. But if it's informational only, we'll save the comments so we can get through the agenda. Yes, Ms. Messer.
Okay. Thank you. So just an update of where we're at right now. We are up to our eyeballs, almost literally, in comments and drafting response to comments on the 3 draft documents, the final draft Delta Plan, the draft EIR, and the draft rulemaking package. We've got all the teams working on those response to comments. And in about a week or so, we're going to shift gears, and we're going to start preparing a fairly extensive staff report and presentation that we'll be bringing to the council at your meeting at the end of March on the 28th, 29th. And what we're going to do at that meeting is we're going to present comment themes, we're going to present draft responses, or at least approaches that staff have come up with in terms of addressing major comments. And we're going to run through each of the 3 draft documents in presenting the comments for each of those documents individually. And it's going to be a process that is similar to the exercise we went through last spring, early summer, where we brought the council a couple of different lists. We had a action items list where those were comments or comment themes that were substantial, that we wanted to make sure we highlighted for the council for your consideration, discussion, and direction. And then we'll also probably bring a separate list. We're trying to think of a way to categorize all of these comments. We've got about 3,000 of them total. But we'll have a separate list where we have comments that are not quite so substantial in nature, much more straightforward, maybe technical, editorial, and we'll run through those as well. In addition to running through comments and draft response to comments, we'll have a couple of additional items that are related to the draft EIR that we'll bring to the council. One is information on the analyses the staff and the legal team have done looking at the EIR process and the comments and the suggestions these comments at least bring forth for us in terms of changes we might need to make to the Delta Plan. And then we'll also take a look at how the Delta Plan further achieves the co-equal goals, and this is this exercise in looking at the different alternatives that are part of the EIR process and how those also work towards achieving the co-equal goals. This comparison of alternatives is part of the EIR process. It'll be part of the CEQA findings that must be considered in May when we get to the point where hopefully the board or council's pleasure, they'll be looking to certify the final EIR. So March will be a big meeting. We plan on both days two-day meeting, and the majority of those 2 days will be spent on this particular exercise, going through comments. So in the month of April, what we'll do, I should back up just one step. The ultimate goal of the March meeting is to get feedback and final direction from the council on the comments, on responses, on major issues, so that in April, staff can go back and start to incorporate revisions into the 3 draft documents and keep the process going of finalizing these documents. So in April, we'll work on revisions. One additional step we may need to do as part of the rulemaking process is to conduct a 15-day public comment period for the rulemaking package itself. And that's if we, as we go through response to comments and decide on the revisions that need to be made, if those are substantial and if they're sufficiently related to the original proposed action or proposal of the rulemaking package, we're required to do this 15-day comment period. And right now, the schedule, the way we have it set up, it'll begin sort of early part of April and run through about the 3rd week of April. That'll give us the 15 days. Staff will immediately then review the comments, kind of go through the process we're going through now, take a look at the comments, draft responses, but those will be incorporated into the final rulemaking package. At the same time, roughly the same time we may be going through this 15-day public comment period, we also need to submit the rulemaking package, namely the economic and fiscal impact statement, to the Department of Finance for their review. That's another required step in the rulemaking process. And we need to do that roughly about 30 days before the council adopts the regulations and certifies the EIR and adopts the Delta plan. So those are going to be somewhat overlapping in time, those two processes. And then finally, we will begin, again, to draft a staff report and a presentation that sets the stage for the May council meeting, where we would come back and, if the council is of the mind to take a look at considering certifying the EIR, adopting the plan and the regulations, we would provide the necessary information to set the stage for that. In early May, probably about the first week of May, we need to post, we need to publish the final EIR, publish the final Delta plan, and the final rulemaking package, post that on our website, get the notifications out all 10 days in advance of the May council meeting. So that's an internal effort we'll be working on, so you'll see that coming out in early May. And then right now, as we have the schedule laid out, we are anticipating the council meeting in May would be on the 16th and 17th. And again, I know I've repeated it numerous times, but that would be sort of the big ticket item where the council would consider finalizing all of the documents. And then immediately after that council meeting, we would need to put the finishing touches on the documents, especially the rulemaking package, and get that over to the Office of Administrative Law for their review. It's going to be a very tight turnaround time. We're going to submit that. The OAL has up to 30 days to review the rulemaking package. We are going to ask, I think it's our intention to ask for a shorter review period so that we can get the regulations submitted to the Secretary of State by May 31st. That's the date we need to hit in order to have the regulations become effective on July 1st. They, I think last year, changed the law that changed the schedule of regulations becoming effective from a more continual process to a quarterly process. So we're a little bit at the mercy of their schedule on these. And that would be May. In June, we would post the notice of determination after the EIR has been certified, the Delta plan's been adopted, and then we would spend a good portion of the latter part of May and June cleaning up the final Delta plan. Our intent is to present a red line version to the council in May so that you can see the changes that have been made, areas where we decided not to make changes. So we would spend the last part of May and June cleaning that up, accepting the changes, turning it into a very polished, clean, professional document that we would post at the end of June, but no content changes after it's been adopted. So I think that's it for schedule.
Yeah, Cindy, just back to your last summation there. So then, are you anticipating that at the June meeting there would, if action were taken in the May time frame, that the I guess it's June 28th, if I recall correctly, the date that you was targeted, that there would be some action on the final plan?
No, that's May.
It's
So
May.
That's May. So you're saying you
Yes.
present the red line version, so then the print is subsequent to that, then that comes out. And so what comes back at the June meeting to the council? You would circulate to Office of Administrative Law for the rulemaking, and does that require then some additional action? I guess what are you contemplating in
The June.
at the June meeting? Yeah, beyond what you described you're going to do as far as circulating things. But
Right.
for
So
the council action, I guess, if any.
if in May, the council takes all three actions, certifies the EIR, adopts plan and the regulations, in June,
Even if we accept changes or make changes
in May.
in May. Right, okay.
At this point, if we walk away from the May meeting with final versions, or perhaps there are suggestions for some changes, and then the council, we would have a resolution that would say with these changes the council approves. We actually didn't have specific action items for the June meeting, other than to probably bring back just this clean, polished final draft of the Delta plan. It would have been adopted. It just won't be the red line version. It'll be a cleaned up version.
Okay. And then are you, with the dates that I know that Angela and Pat have, talked with my office about getting dates on the calendar. So are you
Right.
anticipating that you're only going to need the 2 days in May? I mean, I think we were holding 4 days in each of the subsequent April, May time frame, and I don't know about June. I just want to be sure about that, because
Right.
again, you can't with 100% definition know, depending on how hearings go and comments are received. But are you just anticipating then that mid-May meeting it's all going to get done in those 2 days? Is that what you're contemplating now?
That's what we are hoping for. We have, and you're right, I know with the schedule that Angela's laid out for 2013, we have 2 meetings per month. And maybe I should take a step back too, just to maybe answer this question for April. At this point, if we walk away from the March meeting with final direction from the council, we don't anticipate the April meeting being, in terms of Delta Plan, it would just be an informational update like this. This is where we're at with the process. What we may need to do is, if we have to continue that discussion, let's say we don't wrap up everything in March, we would probably shoot for an early April meeting. I think it's the 11th, 12th is the dates that we have set tentatively right now. We would need to use those dates. The earlier in April, obviously we would need it to be early in April to continue to meet that schedule. With the May meeting, what we've been focusing on is just one meeting, and we've been going back a bit back and forth, and I know Angela's contacted your offices to find out whether we were going back and forth between May 9th and 10th or May 16th and 17th.
Well, and again, I asked that, one, not just from the standpoint of planning to hold the time, but secondly, we're coming down now to, this is crunch time. Again, there's been a lot of work done, and so it's not going to, there may not be many new revelations, but nonetheless, when we're getting down to being asked to certify an environmental document that has thousands of pages and thousands of comments, and as well as rules and final Delta plan and so forth, that it may, from the standpoint of the audience that obviously has followed this very closely and been a part of the discussions and deliberations and obviously the development of the plan, as we get to that point, my experience has at least in the past, has shown that you may get some comments that, again, could throw that off a bit as it relates to, may not be surprising, but nonetheless, because people recognize that this now is going to be a time when this body is poised to take those actions. That may not happen as well, but I want to be curious, make sure we have sufficient time in light of just trying to drive to the end of the fiscal year for completion of this process. So.
Right, and maybe I should mention that I put 2 scenarios in this report with two different end dates, and largely it's based on the quarterly acceptance of the regulations and when they become effective. But obviously, if we come together in May and we do have questions or a discussion that we need to continue, then we're looking at that October 1st date for the regulations to become effective. And
Can I just make a suggestion? That's the last entry in your chart on page 6 of the staff memo for this item. Boy, rewrite it. It is
Confusing?
yes.
Okay.
It was not a sentence describing what was happening. If the thing is, if there is any delay from the project above, this is the next date upon which regulations could be effective. If that is what you meant to say, my recommendation is you say that, because I worked hard to figure out what that was.
Okay, yes, I agree. That was very last-minute entry into
Yes,
that
right,
chart, so.
Right. Okay. Randy, you had a question? No? No.